Shelley Wynter Show, live, local, topical, and relevant. And on the phone, as you know, is my good friend Bill Crane, political analyst for WSB TV and the Shelley Wynter Show and WSB Radio, because he's on with Von Hessler Doctrine and also Mark Aaron. But welcome to Shelley Wynter Show once again, Bill Crane.
Always a pleasure, Shelley. How are you this Thursday evening?
Wonderful, wonderful. So I pulled the Georgia Secretary of State numbers. 337,000 votes have been cast through today at 7:00, and about 10% of that is coming out of Fulton County. The vast majority of that are Republican. The vast majority of the 337,000 are Republican. Not the vast majority, but about, let me see. About 100,000 more Republican votes than Democrat votes. Talk to me about that.
Well, if you look backwards, and I'm sure you already have, you're asking a question I think you already know the answer to, but if you look at the primary and where those votes fell out, Fulton and DeKalb performed best among counties, none of which they won, but for Brad Raffensperger and Chris Carr. Those were their two strongest counties, particularly DeKalb for Chris, who is a native there, and Chris Carr, the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, I actually believe got some Democratic crossover votes in the Republican primary because it's an open primary state. Whether or not those people go back or not, we don't know.
Well,
but
wait a minute. Don't you when you say an open primary state, you have to pull a Republican ballot. You're saying that some Democrats pulled a Republican ballot? Right. Oh, yes, that makes sense. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say
they were less interested in voting in the Democratic primary. And again, looking at the numbers, Keisha Lance Bottoms won overwhelmingly and became the nominee on the Democratic side, but her numbers were in the 40s in the core four for the Democrats, DeKalb, Cobb, Fulton, and Gwinnett, where in November those numbers will need to be 65 or 70% for the Democrat to win statewide.
Right, exactly right. So those numbers now you're talking about Jackson and Carr performing well in those counties.
Raffensperger and Carr. So those voters,
what did I say?
Come back and
what did I say?
You said Jackson and Carr.
Oh, I meant to say Raffensperger and Carr. Yes.
And Jackson did do well in Fulton, but why I think what you've told me is significant is those urban counties that typically drop off substantially in the runoff, turning back out, also have a Fulton County Commission race that's rather hotly contested between longtime chair Rob Pitts and Mo Ivory, who won by plurality in the primary, but has a lot of momentum and the endorsement of Mayor Andre Dickens and other things, Democratic side. But it's also driving interest in people turning out for the runoff.
Now, that's the question I have, because with the Democrat votes at 33,000, with many of those being Republican voters, right? Is that Democrat turnout high for that commission race?
No, it's not. But what I'm saying is there's interest and people are paying attention because that race is going on. And of course, the endless barrage of television ads,
right,
not only in the governor's race, but also in the lieutenant governor's race, and more recently in some of the down ticket races on radio and elsewhere for Secretary of State on both sides. So top of the ticket, the Democrats have sewn up their nomination, didn't have any challenge to John Ossoff on the Democratic side. Keisha Lance Bottoms is the nominee for governor. Their top of ticket ballot race is lieutenant governor, then Secretary of State.
Right.
But the fact that the numbers have reversed and are much heavier on the Republican side when they were heavier on the Democratic side 4 weeks ago says somebody's picking up some momentum and vote they didn't have before. And I'm telling you, my thought is, we talked about this off air earlier this week, that Carr and Raffensperger voters are going back out, but they're not voting. They're probably voting for Rick Jackson.
I disagree. I
That's your show.
No. I disagree, and I tell you why I disagree. It's not because I like Burt Jones necessarily. I'm just playing pundit. I think from what I'm seeing and this is just my anecdotes from social media. What I'm seeing on social media is that many of the, especially Carr voters, are going back out for Burt Jones. And the arguments that I'm seeing on social media is that because of the legislative experience.
And they may well be doing that. I mean, neither you nor I are Kreskin. The Signal polling and another real poll that I haven't seen yet paint a picture that you won't like. But since I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I
going
saw
to
that.
speak to it.
I saw that Signal poll. It wasn't a poll necessarily. It
That's
was,
not a poll.
yeah, that was like a
that's
graph.
not a poll. There is correct.
Right, that was a graph.
There is a poll that hasn't dropped yet. That's coming.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be secretive. I haven't seen the sample. I haven't seen the data. But what I've been told by Greg Bluestein and a couple of our good colleagues who have no reason to snow me is there's a gap, and it's not in favor of your guy. I could be wrong. And there is a special session, and the lieutenant governor may well win and be the nominee, all of those things.
Right.
But you asked me what I think's going on.
I respect your answer, Bill. And the last poll I saw was May 27th was JMC Partners, and it had 45.
And the lieutenant governor was ahead.
Right,
yeah,
right. No, the lieutenant governor was actually behind by 3 votes. The poll a week before that, which was Insider Advantage, had Burt Jones ahead. But neither one of them are above the 50.1 threshold in these polls.
Correct. Correct. And the spread was 38 to 33
right.
in the primary.
In the primary.
That was their number. So,
right. So
they're only 6 percentage points apart, with half the voters not wanting either of them.
Right. Exactly right. And that's going to be what's interesting. And I know we disagree on this. And part of me, it could be because I want Burt. I don't know who you want. I think you're pretty been calling.
I'll say this again, and because I've said it to you, but I haven't said it to our listeners. Burt Jones has run a much smarter campaign in the runoff than I think, because he was caught flat-footed, than he was able to run in the primary. And I think the Jackson camp oversaturated with some of their negative advertising, and it started to ding their numbers. But they've recalibrated and have some different new ads that show a non-mean grandpa side of Rick Jackson. Things with his grandkids, a dog, a pickup truck, with a wink and a nudge towards the audience and the camera, but showing a different side of it.
And he said that when I interviewed him right after the primary election, he said they were going to do that more, as his words, not mine, humanize him some, because he said on the air that his grandchildren were saying, you seem mean.
You look like a mean grandpa.
Grandpa, right. And so my question is, though, since this is a runoff election, right, does that work? Because it now, and I understand the framing of the question. The framing of the question is, you've inundated from February to May the mean grandpa.
And the answer is I don't know, because as we both know, runoffs, and I'll speak to runoffs in a general sense in a second, but runoffs in this particular sense, we've never seen a governor's race with this kind of spending in the primary.
Right.
For this many weeks and months. We've never seen $100 to $150 million primary and runoff in Georgia in the governor's race. In the general election, the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp race broke spending caps. But in a primary, we've never seen this before. So I don't know, in this era of cable cutting and cord cutting, I don't know what regular their ads are everywhere, but where they're most saturated are regular television, regular radio, and cable.
Right.
So I don't know if you can reverse. I'm a strong believer in you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yep.
First impressions stick. Now I'll switch very quick, and I know I'm running out of time.
No, take your time. We're going to go long. Go ahead.
Primaries in general in Georgia, if you don't have above 40 in the primary, but it's tended to happen, and we could talk specifically about races all the way back to Joe Frank Harris versus Bogan, but Nathan Deal versus Karen Handel, Brian Kemp versus Casey Cagle. The second place finisher benefits from 2 things: momentum, that the first place finisher didn't win outright, and all the people that didn't vote for the first place finisher going, I got one more shot at this, to vote against that lady or that guy. And so
I agree with you.
In Georgia, I'm not saying this is what's happened.
No.
I'm saying
I understand.
What has happened historically.
No, I understand. The
second place finisher, if the first place finisher is below 40, and if the gap between the two is less than 10, and those are both in play here, 5% gap, less than 40, the tendency has been in Georgia, time and again, congressional races, Senate races, go for the primary runoff to be won by the second place finisher, which in this case would be Rick Jackson.
Right. And I think that, again, that's historically, right? But let's
right,
look
and
at.
we've never seen a race like this.
That's what I was going to say. We've never seen $100-something million spent, and
we've never seen this kind of gasoline poured on
right.
each other. And I admire, again, for your listeners, some of them know this, that you asked both candidates in interviews immediately after the primary, would you guys consider just talking about what you're going to do and going positive for the rest of the race? And both of them said essentially yes. And I don't know who fired the first shot, but neither of them did it.
Right. But let me ask you this, though. With all of that being said, right, there's also some data that I've been looking at that shows that in the counties that Burt won, those counties are turnout-wise overperforming. And these are counties that he won. So I think that also what we see in a runoff, to your point about the people who didn't vote for the second place finish, the first place finisher goes to the second place finisher, but I think in this race, I think it's slightly different because one, we're looking at a number that's a tremendously lower turnout, percentage-wise, not in terms of percentage-wise to the whole, particularly to the primary turnout from before. But we're also looking at a situation where you have a guy that spent hundreds of millions of dollars, saturated the market. So I would assume differently in this particular race that everyone who had an opportunity to vote, 70% of the audience rejected Rick Jackson against a $70+ million spend from February to now.
I'm willing to go double or nothing on the dinner. I'm willing to go double or nothing.
All right.
And this is not about who I want to win.
I know. This was you're a pundit. You're a pundit. I'm the one with the dog in a race. No. Let's be clear about that.
All I'm saying is
I get what you're saying historically. I get
it. The lieutenant governor has more experience. The lieutenant governor certainly understands the legislative model. He's got a special session, whichever way this goes, days after this primary runoff is over. And Burt Jones has been in office in the state senate for 10 years and the lieutenant governor for 4. There are so many things that are unusual here. Because we only had about 30% turnout in the primary, there's also 70% of voters who could, not saying they will, who could pick up a ballot on election day and cast a vote.
Right, of course.
And I wish the AJC polls had asked unlikely, atypical, nonpartisan voters, are you going to do that?
Right.
Because this is an election that a lot of people want to say something about the president. So the other intangible, both of these guys claim to be, our president's favorite.
Wait, you said
he has been endorsed by Burt Jones, hands down. That's clear. But both of them clearly want to be very much aligned with this president. So I don't know if people will.
Here's a question, though. Let me ask you a question. You said, sure. I wish the AJC. Is that the poll that's going to drop soon that you were secretive about?
Yes.
Okay, so that's okay. It's all right. It's all right. In your excitement, you let the cat out the bag.
Well, I didn't say that. You said that, but I'm not going to lie to you.
Right, so. right. I just picked up on that. You said I wish they would have, but that's okay. No one's going to get mad. But I think that
no, I'm not sure that's the case. But we'll deal with it when it comes.
Right. It's okay. But so here's my question, though, Bill, because I really truly believe that. No one, like you said, no one's ever spent this kind of money. So if I spend $70 million in a primary and get only 33% of the vote, I've got to believe that's my top number, right? Like if you're just looking at spending, if I've saturated a political market, the state of Georgia, with $70+ million in advertising, mailers, phone banking, everything else, and I only get 33% of the vote, I'm thinking that's my top. Because the guy that I did not spend nearly that amount of money with the experience came out at 38. So when you say that's, I know normally we would say.
I have multiple. I've run multiple, as you know.
I know, of
been
course.
in a lot of campaigns, and typically I'm with the underspender just because they don't raise as much money.
Right.
There's nothing. The closest thing you really can compare this to is Kamala Harris and the unlimited resources she had that didn't even turn out a majority of Democratic voters. So there is a point where money works against you, not just because you're wealthy, not just because you have resources, But once you've locked your people, your base,
Right.
you're then trying to peel away people from the other side.
Right.
And if your numbers, if your internal tracking, because I'm told at one point their internal numbers had him at 42. So if you end at 33 and your internal numbers are at 42, a couple of weeks out, some of what you were doing was not helping you at the end. And I've said this to people around Rick Jackson. I think they overspent in terms of the hard attack ads starting to turn people off.
My man, Bill Crane. Where can people find you, Bill? Wait! Before you go there, Double or Nothing. I got Bert. You think it's good, right? Double or Nothing, and so
and this is not. I'm favoring. This
I know that. Nobody. Please, ladies and gentlemen, Bill is a pundit. I'm the one with a dog in the fight. So right now. I just want to make sure. Right now, I owe you a steak dinner.
That is correct.
Okay.
And you wanted it to be with company, so we were going to have our dates with us.
Absolutely.
However you want to do it.
No, we're still doing that. We're doing, but what we're going to do is not Double or Nothing, right? Because I want to end up with a dinner. So if Bert,
Double or Nothing, you've already got a dinner you owe me. So Double or Nothing is you would have 2 dinners, or you would owe. Neither of us would owe a dinner.
That's what I mean. I still want to go to dinner. So here's the bet.
We'll still go to dinner.
Well, no, listen. Here's the bet. Bert.
Okay.
I believe Bert's going to be the nominee after Tuesday night, a little bit around 9 o'clock. We're going to find that out. I'll be on the air till 10 on Tuesday night. And
this is a very specific wager you're making, Shelley.
Right.
I might just say he's the winner.
Right. So that's our bet. I'm saying that it's going to be Bert. You saying it may not be. So if Bert
you're saying 9 o'clock, that's a pretty clear win. So that's like he stomps it and we're done.
No, we're going to get early. We're going to find out early. I'll be on till 10. I'm staying on till we have a winner. I'm supposed
to
be on.
I'll be there at the station with you. We may have another glitch in system like we did.
No, it's not going to happen.
We had one precinct till midnight.
I'm supposed to be on the air till 10, but if we don't have a winner called by 10, I'm just going to ask management if I can keep going.
I will be there with you, so we'll know.
So then here's the bet. Here's the bet. If it's Bert, you owe me dinner. I still owe you the dinner from our primary
I understand.
bet.
So it's separate.
Right.
Bets.
It's separate bets, right? This is a new bet.
It's not double.
Not double or nothing. You're right.
And
separate bets.
I got it. And ask your listeners for suggestions on where we should have dinner.
Okay. Well, I know where I'm going.
Right.
I'm going to the place where the person's not going to charge me. No, I'm just kidding. Bill Crane.
Car dealership?
Yeah, the car dealer. I'm going to go to Butler, Lexus, South Atlanta. Bill Crane, how can people find you?
Bill Crane, CSI Crane, CSICrane.com, or on social media, Bill Crane, One Man's Opinion. You can subscribe to my weekly column on Substack, or read it on WSBRadio.com.
My man. Talk to you next week. All right, talk to you on Tuesday, my brother.
See you
God
Tuesday.
bless.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll be right back. Shelley Wynter Show.